Last week, we introduced the topic on executive functions, and we were saying it is the self-management skills that one acquires even as they continue to grow up, and it occurs in the adolescent period between the ages of 12 to around 25 years. And so today, what we are going to do is we are going to focus on the three main core executive functions that someone develops as they continue to grow. And as we go along, you're going to see that every teenager or preteen develops these in different times and at different periods. And that is why we should not be comparing one teenager from another one, whether they live with you or in school or outside in the environment that you are in. So the first core executive function is inhibitory control. And in inhibitory control, this is the ability to resist impulses and distractions. If, for example, someone comes and wants you to do something with them at that particular time, are you able to say no? Are you able to resist the urge to say yes and just continue to go? For example, for a teenager, it will be a friend coming in with a vaping machine and wanting them to vape. Are they able to resist that impulse, no matter how nice it smells or how what the information their peers are sharing about its use? Are they able to say no and to walk away? So that inhibitory, you have this strong urge to do something and the impulse to go ahead and do something, but you're able to stop and resist yourself and walk away. So that is an ability that they acquire with time as they go along. But what you have taught them in the earlier years, how to say no, what is the right behavior, such that they are able to choose, and that impulse to say no is heavy because inputted, they have been given all this information, using it since they were childhood, of how to say no to impulses. In terms of distraction, this is where in class, maybe for example, or in a group meeting, are they able to resist the urge of distracting others and distracting themselves from other activities that is going on? And that is them practicing and learning with time. And even you as a parent, helping them to be able to sit to some extent and concentrate for to a certain level. If it is mealtime, from an early age, we teach them that it is mealtime, we need to sit and eat and finish our food. Yes, and even understanding there are so many other aspects that here we are talking generally in terms of gender and personality that come into play in terms of being able to be less distracted. But ideally, generally, that is a skill that a teenager or an adolescent needs to acquire with time so that they can be able to relate well with others and not just do it because it feels good, and just like, for example, in class, you sit, a teacher asks a question, and every time they are just blunting out the answers without waiting for even others to share their view, or even with a group of friends, and they're the ones just spoiling what is going on because that aspect of patience is not there. So that is one core executive function that comes into play, and it develops later. And even explaining this to a teenager who is struggling with this, and even, for example, a teenager who could be in the ADHD spectrum, that will help them to even know that is why maybe sometimes some friends do not like hanging out with them, or that's why they are considered by their teacher as being distractive, or not being able to pay attention and all, and how now you as a parent, you can come in to help with that. The second core executive function is working memory, and this is the capacity to hold and manipulate information in the mind of a short period of time. And this is, for example, if your ability to remember instructions. Your teenager, when they were smaller, you knew that they could not remember a lot of information at once, and so you'll pace the information that you're sharing, or give them tasks that do not require them to remember a lot of information. But now that they are in their teenagehood period, or now they have these adult like bodies, like I like saying, you now want them to be able to remember instructions like that are a letter long, a full scap long. But ideally, even that part takes time to develop. And so you need to gauge your adolescent and see where are they at in terms of remembering instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I need to write it down? Do I need to call and remind them? So you need to assess and see the challenge that you're having with your teenager. Is it for real that they for real sometimes, for real maybe they did not remember or they forgot. So how are you going to come in and help them? Are we going to write it down and stick it somewhere so that you see, so that next time you do not say that you forgot and the likes? So it is you coming along to understand their working memory and to what extent has developed, so that you come along and play and relate with them better and helping them to improve on it, instead of always having the same challenge with them and repeating the same instruction over and over again. And then you being able to know, at what point do I need to forgive? Because it's their working memory that is developing. And at what point is it for real that they were just disobedient? And now you need to come in and now give them a consequences so that they don't repeat that behavior. It needs you as a parent to be present so that you can get to that point. And the third and last co-executive function we are going to look at today is the cognitive flexibility. This is the ability to switch perspectives or approaches to a problem. Are you able, is your teenager or an adolescent able to adjust to a change of plans? This is the time that that part of their brain is developing, because so much is happening. Are you moving houses? Have you separated or divorced? Are you bringing in a new member of the family? Is there an illness that has come into the home that has changed dynamics here and there? So there is so much that can affect a teenager or an adolescent and cause them to change their behavior and even have mental health issues like anxiety and depression because of something like that, because their cognitive ability, the flexibility to adjust to new things and to different things is not yet fully developed. But ideally, most of the time, what we do is that we assume that they should be okay with the changes that are going on. But yet, no, sometimes it takes longer for them to adjust, and that is when they need a lot of support, especially now in the adolescent period, when their perspective about life, about things has grown as compared to the earlier years where we say they had the concrete, they viewed life in a concrete manner. If they lose a loved one, they just know, yes, my mom or my dad, they are no longer there, but I have this other parent, I have grandma, and I'm still in the same home, going into the same school. So for them, maybe at that time, it doesn't affect them to that extent because they have lost one of the parent. But for a teenager, now their brain has opened up. What will happen to us? We will become poor. We do not have that income. My mom will, or my dad will marry someone who will come and treat us badly, or so many other dynamics that come and they start thinking and broaden and all these abilities. So their flexibility tends to be affected all the more. That's why they need a lot of support and discussions around it, and even helped even to think clearly about various things that has happened, and you coming in to help them even as their brain continues to develop in that aspect. So ideally, you need to sit down and see the challenges that you're having, because that is also what we do in therapy. And even as I talk to a parent before meeting the teenager, has anything significant happened? Has there been a change? Because chances are high, maybe the problematic behavior that the parent is experiencing is because something has happened and the teenager is having a hard time adjusting. The cognitive flexibility, there is that challenge. So what has happened, they are trying to, it is manifesting in various ways in terms of mental health challenge, this problematic behavior. Some people say it is rebellion and all that. So we need also to understand that aspect is continuing on, and it is developed, to be patient regardless of how tall and big they are growing compared to us, and where we tend to assume that they should be okay with how things are. So that is basically a nutshell of the core executive functions as we go along in this series, whereby I want us to really understand our teenager from the area of the brain that is developing now in this adolescent period. So I hope you will sit down with yourself and have a discussion with your spouse or the parent of your child and see how now you can work together in helping them develop a healthy and better, and also to help improve your relationship. If you need help with that, you can call or inbox me and we can have a conversation, or we can book a therapy session with you. Please subscribe and follow. So I'm hoping to see you next week for the third part of this series.